Everyone, welcome back to Pominals. Hope we're all doing really well. If you are new around here, please drop a like, please drop a subscribe. It does mean the world to me. It really helps the channel out. We're absolutely smashing them out at the minute, so I can't thank you enough. So please go ahead and do that. You can become a member of the channel. Link is in the description. We do wonderful things like sponsor Domaku, Shannon Gore. We did have that wonderful video about the sponsors event, which we try and get you involved in. And we're a great little community. So if you want to do that, please help us out by doing that. And if you're a returning Pominozer, g'day, how are we all going? Hope we're all doing well. It's the big one, isn't it? It's Collingwood, Carlton, the one that we always get excited for. It is one me personally, having a good mate like Swoop Luke. I do look out for it, and I do really get excited about this game because nothing's better in sport, I think, with about a bit of banter with your mate. Do you know what I mean? A little bit of banter with your mate is always good, isn't it? And obviously, the ledger is squared. We squared the ledger last time out. So there's a bit of bragging rights on this one, and they are up and about, aren't they? Obviously, Collingwood 5-5. Some impressive results in there, but also some capitulations. The Dogs, they really did pull them apart and look very good. Looked very tasty, and the game style of the Pies, really Fly deserves some credit. He's got them going really well. They have got Bolton there as well, who kind of probably is an expert on rebuilds when you've got no hope. He's probably looking at this rebuild and thinking, fuck, this is easy because there's some real good senior players here. They've got a real good game style. They give it a go. They play in the right way. They're aggressive. They look to play it on quickly, play fast, and a real modern day game style. And it's very similar to what Fly has done around his career. If you look at Richmond when he was at the VFL, it was a very direct game style. It really complemented what Richmond seniors were doing. And then you look at where he's worked since then, you know, the forward lines that he's been in, they have been a real acquitted side that looks to create rebound inside 50s, good pressure around the ground. They're one of the top tackling side, they're one of the least tackling side in the comp, but they do have very impressive pressure numbers around the ground in certain key facets, particularly in the forward half of the ground. Their pressure acts are pretty impressive. So that is something for them that they're really starting to build, and that will come as well as they develop. But more importantly, the way they move the ball is really strong. Carlton, on the other hand, total opposite end of the scale. Carlton have really created a possession-based game where I would say, without being biased, are probably one of the top sides, barring Melbourne and Lions at the moment, who have gears in the system. And what Carlton do is their ability to play quick, slow, and really control pressure cooker moments in the football games is a real king. And that is shown, it's not really a surprise or a shock to anyone. Carlton are 8-2 because the system that they play is really impressive, particularly in the last 4 weeks as well. Number one side in differential from scores from turnover. Defensive transitions has gone through the roof. Carlton have really quietly built a layer, and there's a lot of 2017 Richmond about this side that no one's really talking about what they're doing and trying to find excuses why they're not the finished article or anywhere near it. And you've got to remember, Richmond won the flag with a 52% quarters won. And that is kind of archetype of what Carlton are building. They are a side that gets caught on transition because of how forward they play. It's about finding that middle ground. But the one thing Carlton haven't done yet is tear a team apart. That'll keep Collingwood's interest in. If you watch the Fremantle game, there was large parts of the game where Fremantle controlled that game, but the way Collingwood can hit you on the counter is deadly, and it can take the sting out of the tail. So that is something that both sides will be aware of, that it doesn't really matter who you control. When you add that little fire to the game, that little bit of lineage, the history in these two great clubs, it's going to be very interesting. But the backstory of these two sides really needs no introduction. Selection then, well, I mean, obviously, do you know what I mean? No major shocks for either side. You would expect the legend that is Jackie Martin to come into this one for Carlton, and that makes it really interesting, I think. It makes it super interesting in the dynamic of this game. Carlton have had to play a makeshift forward line for a good couple of weeks now, and you would expect that with Noons coming in, that means Cottrell drops out. And that really does say where Carlton are. They know that Noons allows them to have rotation, which is really important in this game, because obviously with how Collingwood play, you want to be able to have some little moments where you can move the I's, dot the T's. And that's what Nunes does, probably over Cottrell. You'd imagine Carroll drops out as well. And you'd imagine Carlton go with Motlop, Plowman, Kennedy, Martin. And that is their four there. Kennedy, Motlop, Plowman and Martin. And that gives them extra dimensions there. As for the Maggies, they've brought in Caleb Poulter. Obviously, they're going to be looking at Carlton and their transition. Reef McInnes and Trey Rusco as well, potentially. It's going to be a very interesting thing. I don't expect many changes will happen from both sides unless they're forced. I think as well, with what Collingwood did last week, they'll have a lot of faith in the fact that wet weather footy is probably a good one for this. You've got to be able to stifle the contest, make it awkward. Carlton's dominance in that middle is going to be important, but I do think the Jack Martin one gives an edge to Carlton, particularly with that forward line, gives another toe. And Jack Martin is probably one of the best players, underrated if you check out the scout report as well that I did for Blue Abroad on their website, of how he finds space. So it's going to be a really interesting selection time what they do, but that's what I predict with Carlton. With the Pies, I would expect them not to make too many huge changes. I do think that Ollie Henry, Tyler Brown are going to be locks, but I do think that Will Hoskin-Elliott and Dacos will make that, which would mean that a couple will drop out, but I don't think they'll make any major changes. Keys to winning then for Carlton, obviously, it's been able to control that centre, which is basically the source of 90% of the scores in the AFL. Carlton will be looking to really enact that. A big thing this week as well is that CD, and I didn't like that Champions Data article that Carlton don't attack the corridor. It's not actually traditionally true. If you watch what Carlton do, they do largely centre their attacks down the wings, but it's that cut back inside about halfway towards the 50 that really kills teams with their running. And a big part of that, as we covered in the scout report, is what O'Brien, what TDK do off the ball in them centre clearances. Carlton are very good in the stoppages and in the centre clearances that their wings pinch up, really starving any centre work. And that's where Carlton's strengths are. Their elite runners inside, Dot coming off the halfback, really looking to take the game on. And that is where Carlton will be looking to really focus this. One thing that has been impressive this year as well is in the last 4 weeks particularly is that Pies are one of the worst sides at creating unforced turnovers, and Carlton's turnover game has gone over to another level, particularly in the midfield. Carlton will be really looking at that avenue there, that if they can enact the pressure, they know the mistakes will come, and their transition game has been really on point. For the Pies, obviously what they want to do is worry about that stoppage, worry about that clearance. I expect to see what they did last week. Pendle's really doubled his centre bouncer tendencies. I expect to see that again, a little bit of class and a little bit of work in the inside. Pendlebury is one of the best players in the competition at finding space when it matters. I'd imagine Taylor Adams will have his hands full looking to take away that short option. Carlton are one of the lowest kick to handball ratios in the comp. Very handball heavy there because it creates space and overlap, and Pendles and Taylor will be really looking to do that. I reckon you'll see a lot of Degoe in them centre bounces as well, really trying to take them short options away from Carlton and forcing that kick long into traffic, which allows them to create the transition, which we know Carlton, by a product of their system, do struggle with. I also expect to see Dacos, both of them, get a run on the ball. I think they will be looking to try and complement Carlton's. I don't think they'll go defensive. I think they'll try and meet Carlton head on in the fire of the furnace. Also, another key to winning is ball entry inside 50, and on a countermeasure, what Darcy Moore does. Darcy Moore is very clever at creating space for himself and to peel off away from these contests, which then puts pressure on Charlie taking them marks or whoever is in them contest, but also creates that little ground threat. So Durden's going to be interesting. If Ginnivan plays, that's going to be an interesting one as well. He's very much in form. And that battle with Stocker, which I predict will be a bit of a battle, will be a really intense one. But the pressure really here from both sides is elite. And that's going to have to be elite for these sides to win. Both of them use the ball in a different way, but both require a little bit of time. I do think, though, Carlton probably the better side of the two under a bit of cosh. What will happen if? Well, I think if Darcy Moore finds himself free, it's going to be tough for them because Howe and Moore are playing in them key positions with the injuries they've got. It's going to be a lot oscillated around that. If Carlton can find a way to draw more to the contest, that is huge. But if they find a way of stifling that inside 50 entry and allowing more to be free, see Port Adelaide last year with Gllenn, big problems because his ability from transition is deadly. Also, Quenton, bit of run and carry, is going to really cause Carlton issues. If they can really stifle Carlton's short ball use in the centre and around stoppages, get Crisp, who's sensational when he's playing as the offloader with Taylor Adams, they could be a problem. What will happen if Carlton get that dominance is this game will be very one-sided. I don't think Collingwood can hurt Carlton organically, and a lot of their scores are going to be dependent on Carlton mistakes. And if Carlton can get the jump early and they start to control this game, I don't think the Pies have the game style to really launch a hard fight back. We saw it in the Geelong game that Carlton played and Collingwood played, that they can put pressure on and they can come back from seemingly impossible situations. However, what we have seen with the Pies, though, particularly in that game, was that they were very, very comfortable in the end, the Cats, at trying to get the game over. They can control. There will be options where they run out of steam. It was a 13-point win for the Cats, but what they showed in that game is that Collingwood can come back, but this game style is really hard if you can't keep them levels. Carlton, I think, are the fitter side, and I do think that this will be a win by Carlton, easily by 40 plus. I am expecting a domination. It's going to be a great game, though. Get round to it. No disrespect to the Pies when I say that. I just think Carlton are too strong, too good, and too skillful for them. Should be a really entertaining game. I can't see how they stop our midfield and our forward line. I think Charlie Curnow is something else, and I think Darcy Morey's going to have to play a lot more of a lockdown role on Charlie, because if Charlie kicks 4 or 5, game is going to be busted wide open, because that transition threat, although Howie's good, I think can be negated with Jesus and Martin double teaming him. So I do think it's a very, very exciting game. Always a puncher's chance, though, remember that, but I can't wait to watch it. Come in and watch the Sunday with me, the watch along. I can't wait to welcome you all there. Cheer hard, go Blues, Pom out.